like music is the universal language. Like even when there's no words, it's the one thing everybody understands. Everybody knows the melody to We Will Rock You or fucking Thriller, or you hear a guitar riff, like it is a universal language. So I think keeping that first in mind, especially in a world where I mean everybody's trying to sell something. So it's like how are you connecting with people in a way that they can trust you? And music is usually the first thing besides like a spokesperson or something where people are like, "Oh, this might be let me listen to this. Let me see what this is."
You're listening to the Cult of Sound podcast. Welcome. I'm Anthony, your host and founder of Cult of Sound, a Brooklyn-based music studio creating original sound across film, TV, games, and more. Cult of Sound came about because we felt a need, a frustration with sound often being treated as secondary. We wanted to build a space where music and sound are central, where they lead the way. We started Cult of Sound to put music at the center of storytelling. Our collaborators are real musicians, people who bring their stories, perspective, and their voice into the process. Together, we shape music that resonates, from emotive editorial soundscapes to songs built to make bodies move. Our first score came from Vice's Emmy-winning docuseries, Vice. Its fast-paced, editorial style demanded music as authentic and unfiltered as the stories themselves. Collaborating closely with the Vice team, we created a sonic landscape that underscored often uncomfortable truths, learning firsthand how integral music is to delivering a powerful message. That experience set the tone for our work. Impactful, emotional sound built with intention. This podcast is a continuation of that ethos. A space for real conversations with artists, producers, music professionals, and collaborators who are redefining how sound moves through culture. If you happen to be a creative, a director, someone who works in media and actually gives a fuck about music, we found you. On today's episode, I sit down with John Gonzalez, aka YawnyBlew, a Brooklyn native, artist, podcaster, and music coordinator at Meta. We talk about hybrid creative roles, sound as identity, building your own career when the industry isn't built for you, and the power of releasing work even when it's not perfect. Let's get into it. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Cult of Sound podcast. Today we have a really cool guest. His name is YawnyBlew. And he is a musician, a producer, a overall all-around communicator, and really a hybrid in a lot of ways. Thank you for joining us here today and making this happen.
Thanks for having me.
We found you first on LinkedIn, and then we made the connection with YawnyBlew as an artist. And I think, for us, it was like, wait a minute, there's something here. Here's an artist who is making and creating, but also is taking it just a little step further in regards to how you talk about your work, how you let people know, and the collaborative process that you have gone through. And also, yeah, I feel like you do a lot of like podcasts. I feel like you love to have these conversations.
Yeah, my partner's a podcaster and he pulled me into that world, and I mean, as you can tell, it's such a easy extension of what we all do because I mean, conversations are part of every medium, every art. It starts with a conversation. So yeah, I do a lot of podcasting, and I enjoy it. So this is fun.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, hopefully, yeah, this is our approach is just very laid back and chill. And so I don't have any questions, but I know a lot about you, but I want to give you a chance to just sort of let our audience know just a little bit about YawnyBlew, how it started, where it's going, what you've learned. I know that's a lot, but
Yeah, no, it's all good. So I started first as a songwriter. Well, as artist songwriter. Just I knew I wanted to make music. I knew I like to sing. I like to write music, and songwriting was the easiest place for me to go. It just felt like it made the most sense for like just what I was most passionate about, which was being in the studio, which was coaching other artists. Um, the artist persona and the YawnyBlew concept came about when the pandemic happened, and I was starting to see traction as a songwriter, working in the label systems and working on music for television and film, and then everything shut down, and I kind of got scared, and I was like, well, shit, how do I keep work coming in? Like, what is the best way to do that? And the group that I was working with at the time, we all had music that we really cared about, so it was like maybe we just do music as artists to sort of be a commercial for what we do. So it's interesting. I appreciate you acknowledging like what I do as a communicator, because I think from the very beginning, my output's always been very intentional to sort of communicate a bigger picture of like, I do this thing and I like it, but I also really want to do all these other things. And through releasing music, I sort of started to realize that I had a knack for marketing, for creative directing, for even doing like just back office stuff. You know, working with the DSPs and creatively creating creative strategies that work with like rollouts and stuff like that. So that's kind of how the YawnyBlew thing happened. And as it's continued to sort of spiral out and I've gotten a lot of the work that I was looking to attract, I also realized that I really liked the output. And there was a time where I thought I might have to choose just old school programming of like
Mm-hmm.
artist versus executive. And then I looked up and realized like a lot of my heroes, like the Pharrells and the Baby Faces, and they do both. So it's like, shit, why not? You know, if I'm really enjoying music even more now than I was before, but also still attracting all these opportunities and they go together so well, why not just keep pursuing all of it? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That's interesting in that it's almost like you had this understanding of this process on how things get distributed and how communications work. And it's like you took that data and that knowledge and you're like, all right, well, how can I apply it to myself, right? And how can I take what I'm doing and expand on it and have it reach the right people? And I always wonder, I feel like with artists, right? I think, you there's so much that goes to it. That's the artistry of it, the creation of it. But then it's also, right, like the back end. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, how do we get this in front of the right people? I'm from the advertising industry. This kind of thinking is native to me. Um,
It's not for a lot of creative people, like people who at least who identify with the word artist. It's almost like, and it's not all of them, 'cause there's some great artists out there who are also very business savvy and care. But I think the general consensus is that artists just create and kind of shut off the rest of it. So yeah, it almost feels rare in that case to like you said, something that's native to you. It's not always native to at least the artists that I've encountered. As a songwriter, like I'd sit there and work with these people who were brilliant as far as can play, can sing, and then it was like, well, what's your plans for like the rollout or like so I started to figure that stuff out because I did find it interesting. And not only did I find it interesting, but I found it creative. And I think I always encourage artists, especially in this climate where like people are so anti-label and so like anti, don't sign your rights away. And it's like, well, the only way to not do that is if you really empower yourself to learn all these other things.
mm,
And the only way to learn these other things is if you find them interesting. And for me, the trick with that is like I have to make them creative.
mm,
So for me, like creative strategy feels more sexy than saying like I got to work on a rollout plan.
right.
But it's like it's all creative, and from putting stuff out, like it's probably some of the most creative work goes into the marketing and goes into how things are
Absolutely.
branded. So I love it, but I know it's rare.
It is rare, and also too, I think, the creative strategy behind things are what really create powerful, effective communication, whether it's a song or a video or a spot or a short film.
Hmm.
There really is this sort of like preparedness this mental preparation that you do when you are thinking strategically first before you go off. Because even if like strategically, like creatively, but also strategically, how are you going to plan, how are you going to execute, and how are you going to go about doing that? How does that show up in the work that you do now? Like, I guess I guess in contrast to, what you were first doing in 2020, but after the pandemic.
It's literally my entire job now, which is why again they feel so cohesive and why being an artist and an A&R go hand in hand for me. So like with my work at Meta, I got hired to do all of the things for our sound collection that I do for myself. Essentially, like I was brought in to help tell the story of the sound collection as a communications expert, specialist, whatever you want to call it. And my only real experience with that prior to working there was I did some music journalism on and off, but really was the rollouts and the press releases and things that I was writing for my own music.
Mm,
Like that was what I submitted. I was like, hey, this is what I have. And that's what got me in. And that's what I did for about the first 6 months there was just, looking through our catalog and identifying story arcs and opportunities to promote, whether it was through cultural events or through things going on like, spring, summer fashion, what music do we have that maps to this? And learning things like that I didn't know had a word like sonic identity. I didn't know that was a thing, prior to, but I had been doing that the whole time. So yeah, it mapped like perfectly. Like I don't think I would have gotten the job that I have now if I didn't start releasing music as an artist.
Mm.
Yeah.
And also too, like, the job that you have now, was it around then in like 2020?
I don't think so. I know our sound collection's been around since maybe 2017,
Mm.
but I don't think we had like a communications person. I think we had obviously like A&Rs but I don't think. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was such a new concept. I mean, Meta's a tech company owning a sound library. That concept isn't foreign, but I mean, within the context of a tech company, like how does that work,
Right.
So I think the opportunity, yeah, it didn't exist when I started releasing music as an artist. The need to market it internally didn't exist.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting now that there's more opportunities for musicians to be able to provide their point of view and help guide and change the direction that, big companies like Meta take in regards to music and how they treat artists. And, to me, it sounds like, their approach is, we want someone that understands business but also understands music.
Yeah.
Will there be more opportunities like this in the future for, like, musicians and other kinds of creatives, but specifically musicians to, I guess, sort of break out of what we consider to be like the, musician to label kind of pipeline? Like I love the idea that there's all these different avenues now that musicians can explore
Mhm.
and can lend their skill sets and their value where it's really needed,
Mhm.
like just even hearing like your trajectory here, it's so fucking cool. It,
Thank
it,
you.
it it really is, in that you've got people making decisions at companies like Meta that actually know what it's like to be on the ground and are not so far removed from
Mhm.
the actual source. Yeah, I'm just like curious to see like how further, like, this whole hybrid, this idea of being like, you're a musician but you also can do other things,
Mhm.
that are music related and can amplify other musicians and the work that you do.
I That's something I'm really passionate about. As far as the question of like, what is the next evolution of this, or is there going to be more of this? I'm really passionate about that because I didn't think it existed prior to. I was so committed for so long to being a songwriter. That's what I was most passionate about. And, just out of human nature, I think our minds, no matter how creative we are, they still map to things that we see are tangible. So it's like, I knew I loved making music. I knew what a songwriter was. So
Mm.
those two things, I was like, okay, I want to be a songwriter. And I identified with songwriters like The Dream and James Fauntleroy. Like I saw myself in them. So it made sense. Like that pipeline made sense to me. Until it didn't, until I started realizing like, I just wasn't enjoying the work. So I had to be very intentional about getting creative in my pursuit of opportunities. But I wasn't sure what was out there. And when I got this role, and as I've grown through it, from communications to A&R, now I'm working on partnerships and like sonic identity and stuff. And all of my experience is mapping perfectly. Like there's no learning curve. Like
Mm.
everything that I've learned as a songwriter solely is mapping. And I'm like, shit, I want to continue doing this, but also how do I create these avenues for other artists?
Mm.
So the real answer is I don't know, but I think the step to creating more of those things is going to be for creatives like ourselves and others to. I'm always telling people, be just as creative in your pursuit of what you want to do as you are in your art. Like you have
Mm.
to be. So it's like if you have all these skills and for whatever reason this title that you've chosen, it just isn't mapping, financially or just, creatively, maybe you've outgrown it, whatever the case may be, you know, really think crucially about what you do every day and what you're passionate about and how you can expand upon that. And I think that those will be the people that create these next opportunities and these next roles because I mean, social media is not going anywhere and I think it's continuing to diversify the kind of jobs and things and probably working in marketing like the content creator and the way that people market online has completely changed that industry as it has every other industry. And as that's happened, it is creating all of these roles that, people are just kind of falling into because they happen to have enough followers or they, whatever. But it's like if you can marry that with the experience that you're bringing to the table, the experience I'm bringing to the table, and then bring in that creativity to say like, well, no, I think this role, there's a role here missing. There's a gap here.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's like identifying
yeah,
that gap
yeah,
and figuring out a way to fill it.
yeah. And I think there's so many. And I think to your point, I mean, even me being in the role that I'm in and just seeing when I work with the artists that I work with, they're so appreciative of like the conversations we have, but it's because I'm an artist too. So it's like I understand. But I remember being on the other side of that and being a songwriter, being an artist, and working with A&Rs at labels who would just kind of like jigsaw stuff. And not that there aren't good A&Rs, but
Right.
just in my experience, I would see A&Rs. It was more so about like, well, these two people look good together, or like, or this I've got money invested here and here, so but it's not creative,
Right.
you know?
Or it lacks strategic thinking,
Yeah.
right? Or like it's kind of like, let's just throw something together and see if it works.
Yeah. There's strategy, but it's not creative strategy. It's more so like, that everybody's got a job to do, and it's like no matter how cool the job is, there's always going to be somebody who finds a way to it's just work. And they find a way to just like push buttons and like, so I think the music industry, like any other industry, there's a lot of people, tech industry, entertainment, people just kind of fall into roles and don't really care about them. But to be a person that cares about music and creativity and work with artists all day and see them say like, man, we really appreciate you. It's like, okay, this is what I needed. So I appreciate being here. I want to keep doing this. Also, how do I help the next group of people find these roles if they so see fit, because there are people who are incredible at being artists. Like there's this joke now of like Sabrina Carpenter and Doechii that like you could tell they really wanted to be famous and they're great at it. Like people say it all, like there's a video of Doechii in Paris, like directing traffic with her fans.
Oh, I've seen that.
You see that, and somebody commented like, "What I love about Doechii is you could tell she's prepared her whole life for this." And it's like that's great. She's amazing at that. But everybody's not prepped to be a megastar like that.
Totally.
We have to create other avenues because everybody who loves music doesn't need to be Doechii, but they can be the songwriter, they can be the social media strategist, or they can be the person that's just helping her day to day shoot content, or the person's laying out her clothes, like all of that's creative. Like, and there's all these other, and then even away from the music industry and tech, just realizing all the implications of music and sound. And you open up your phone, it makes a sound. Everything makes a fucking sound. Like somebody had to design that. That's a producer, So
And especially now, I feel like we're going into, if we're not already there, an audio first world.
hell yeah.
Yeah. We're walking down the street. Hey Siri, text John. Let
Yeah.
him know that I'm going to be 10 minutes late. And she does the thing and sends it, and you get it, and you're walking, and you didn't even have to look at your phone. And that's just now, right? Like thinking about like what that's going to become later on, and then the needs for people who understand music and sound, and all the future roles that haven't been created. It's almost like like how it's almost normal now for like musicians to show up as creative directors at fashion houses and things like that. Like I want to see the future where like every major company understands the importance of music and sound and has a dedicated team, and they're really thinking about it, and it's an in-house thing.
Important. That's so important. I think even like you said, audio first. We're moving into an audio first world for sure. And even beyond just speaking to our phones, like music is the universal language. Like even when there's no words, it's the one thing everybody understands. Everybody knows the melody to "We Will Rock You" or fucking Thriller, or you hear a guitar riff. Like it is a universal language. So I think keeping that first in mind, especially in a world where I mean everybody's trying to sell something. So it's like how are you connecting with people in a way that they can trust you? And music is usually the first thing besides like a spokesperson or something where people are like, "Oh, this might be let me listen to this. Let me see what this is." Um yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm tell you like I knew that there were more things that I could be doing, and I think again like unless stuff exists, it's hard to even imagine it. So, coming up, my upbringing in music wasn't super technical. Like I didn't go to school for music, not initially anyway. I didn't grow up in like a music family, so all I knew about the music industry was TV. So I just knew kind of like the songwriter, the artist, the label.
Hmm.
So trying to navigate that world, I didn't know other things existed. So as I've started to learn that they do, I'm always just like, who else doesn't know about this? Like,
Hmm.
how do I help other people figure out like, hey, you can have a sustainable life, career, and do really cool shit outside of the music industry.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's kind of like that saying, you can't be what you can't see,
100%,
right? And it's like
100%,
you
yeah.
had no idea this was even a thing. All the types of careers you could have that are music related that aren't directly in the music industry
Hmm.
and on the side. And yeah, no, and I've had, conversations with younger people in the industry, and I think, they're looking for different opportunities and different ways in. And I think, hearing a story like yours and being able to sort of like see yourself as a representative of a company or corporation somewhere, and providing your own point of view in regards to music. Like I love that you said like you didn't go to school for music initially. And which is great, because I feel like a lot of times people do feel like they have to be of a certain caliber
Yeah.
or from a certain pedigree to be able to do certain things within industries. But I guess what I notice when I talk to the young people about the opportunities, and when they kind of like realize that they're not stuck to these traditional structures, I feel like something changes in them. There's a sense of like of optimism. Even the way they like carry themselves or think about their craft changes. And
Hmm.
you're curious what your experience has been like working with people that are up and coming, or the people that you have been able to mentor or provide some kind of guidance. Like, I guess like what's that experience been like for you?
So I've kind of had two different versions of it. The most recent one has been really great. Shout out to LinkedIn actually, because we connected through LinkedIn. But
Sponsored by.
right, imagine that'd be great. This young lady reached out to me from LinkedIn. Worked with this company called Building Beats.
Mm.
They're like I think they're a nonprofit, and they work in schools, like just kind of helping kids after school, music, podcasting. So they asked me to come in and speak to the kids, and really fucking smart. And kids is, I mean, I sound old saying kids. Some of them were like in their early 20s, like, but teens. I think the youngest was like 16 to like 23. So that age range.
Kids.
Kids, yeah. They know so much more than I did. So I will say, like, when they say the kids are gonna be all right, like they knew a lot more than I did as far as what they knew to ask. Like they were asking me about sync, and they were
Mm.
asking me about like what distro do you use, and like, and I think what I realize is this generation, because they live online and
Mm.
because there's so much more access to information, they understand the pipeline a lot more than I did at
Mm.
15 when I started on MySpace.
For
Um,
sure.
so they were asking like real questions about like and had real infrastructure. Like they were doing releases, and they were fully independent as far as creating. Like they mix mastered, record. Like they just kind of had a better understanding of the creative process, at least, and at least kind of the framework of what a business looks like in
Mm.
music. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of their questions were related to like, how do we get this to the next level,
Mm.
which was
Mm-hmm.
cool versus my experience as a songwriter in like the music industry system. A lot of those young people were people that have kind of been brought up through the music industry and weren't as interested in learning because a lot of things were handed to them more so. So it's a lot more of
Mm.
just like, I'm talented. Somebody messaged me on Instagram. I'm in the studio now, figure it out. And it's like, oh shit, like what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? And I thought that was normal for a while. I kept getting those same kind of kids, and they were incredibly talented, but it was just kind of like it just kind of was handed to them.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that experience versus my experience now, I'm much happier seeing people that are empowered and really understanding and trying to build a business mind, but are also empowering themselves to be creative versus like the industry kid.
Right, who's just doing the thing, performing, doing the thing, but not really having an understanding of the back end and how deals are made, and what, how to like grow and make a business out of it. And
Or even how they ended up in the room they were in.
mm.
Whatever connection or whatever network or whatever, just a lot of other things that were at play that they weren't aware of.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like back in the day, you almost had to be like specialized in that. You really had to have had to have had an interest in it, right? And but the good thing about 2025 is all the information is online. You can go to any kind of school on YouTube
Yeah.
and learn the thing and, connect some dots and really try. And so,
And the access, like, I mean, there's pirate studios now. We didn't have that when I was a kid. Like all of these kids are in pirate studios every weekend making their albums, and Fiverr's a thing, so they're finding people to mix and master stuff if they don't know how to do it. And so I feel really good about a lot of the kids that I get to speak to. And when they reach out to me, one of them reached out to me recently. When I met him, he was saying like, "Hey, I want to be a manager. I want to be an artist manager. So I'm learning how to produce." And I was like, "Huh?" And he was like, "Yeah, because at least if I know how to produce, I know what to ask producers for."
mm,
I was like, "You're really smart." Like
mhm.
he was just like, "Yeah, I want to learn." He's like, "I kind of want to learn everything so I know what I need other people to do." And he's on my newsletter as well. And when I had asked for guests for my podcast, he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I have this artist I'm working with," and was just really smart. And I see him moving, and I'm like, "Oh, this kid's he's gonna be all right," because like he understands this at a deeper level of like he didn't just give himself the title of artist manager. He's making himself earn it,
Mhm.
but also doing the work
Mhm.
and like very intelligent. And I'm like, "Oh, that's dope." Like that's how my brain worked at that age.
And that he's got this understanding of like understanding how to do it all, but also being able to delegate and partner with people that are great at what it is that they do, right? And
Yeah.
like, because I think that's another thing too, where I think even as a creative, it's kind of like the fine line between doing it all, but also and knowing what you're doing, but then
Mhm.
also being able to put trust in someone that like and collaborate with and partner with them and just to make your experience, whatever it is you're working on, that much better. And I feel like, yeah, that's kind of like next level. Everyone's got a different like journey on how they get there, right? Like, um,
I like that style though because again, because everything is constantly changing, but in addition to that, we're constantly these industries are constantly evolving, so we're always having a learning curve and having to learn something new. I prefer kind of learning it first, and then if and when I can delegate.
mhm,
But if I don't know what the hell I need,
yeah.
what am I trying to delegate for?
Mhm.
That's literally why the music industry and entertainment industry can become so predatory because so many people come in and they're just like help, and it's like, what do you need? If you're a good person, you're like, what do you need? If you're a terrible person, it's like, sure, sign this.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
help you.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of terrible people.
Yeah.
So like chances are I mean, no, I'm joking. I
No,
don't know.
no, there
But
are. There are. But no, but I mean, it's business. Some people,
true.
if somebody sees that you're talented and you're willing to hand everything over, I mean, that's business. They're gonna make you a star. It's gonna
Mhm.
cost you. They're
Mhm.
gonna make you a star. So it just depends. But I think people that are willing to learn are better for it, for sure.
For sure, because they're willing to learn, but I think there has to be some kind of appetite to be willing to fail, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's hard. And I see it even within myself. Like, a lot of the times I'm thinking of like I feel like now that I'm older, I know a lot and I know too much and I know the risks. And I think when I was younger, I broke more rules and said I'm sorry and asked for forgiveness after I fucked up,
Okay.
And I think, that's how I learned, and a lot of it is trial and error, but I think you kind of have to be able to be willing to, yeah, make mistakes
Hell yeah.
and pick up and do it again.
We were just talking about being okay with things not being perfect, and wouldn't you know it, our cameras decided to prove the point. So, for the rest of the conversation, it's all about the audio right in your ears. We'll be back with the visuals next time. Enjoy the rest of our chat.
Yeah, I feel more diplomatic about it now as I've gotten older, but I'm still fully just bumping my head against the wall every day and just like fuck it. Like I've accepted that it's part of the process, and especially as I'm sort of growing into spaces that like didn't have space for me to begin with. It's almost like what is it, Alice in Wonderland, where the house she's growing inside of the house and it breaks around
Uh-huh.
her.
And then her legs are out.
Yeah, I feel like that a lot of times in spaces of like I have to kind of outgrow it and bump into shit to kind of figure it out, but you kind of always get to where you're supposed to be. And I think you just got yeah, I think accepting that failure and not even so much failure, but like, they're all lessons. Like
Mm.
everything's a lesson and it teaches you like I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I didn't fail, like I look at a lot of my writing experience, songwriting experience, it was beautiful, but there was a lot of times where I was just like, I don't understand what the hell's going on. Like, I didn't understand what the labels were doing, what the artists were doing. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Mm.
And I would get so frustrated. And well, shit.
Talking about pivoting,
Right? Look, we're good though. Professionals.
Yes, we are
No
professionals.
meltdowns.
For those of you,
Version of me would have been like, "Fuck!" It's
no,
so-
I know.
No, we're good.
For those of you out there, we have had just one or two minor technical glitches,
Yeah.
you know. So, but
It's been a character building.
it has
Not character building. What do they call it? Team building.
team building. It's true. No, and you know what? To be honest, I feel like maybe we didn't catch this, but before John was talking about um, his newsletter and his communication style for YawnyBlew keeps him accountable,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I feel like, so we were talking about that. So not sure if you guys will hear that, but to pick up on that, I think for me, like I struggle with perfectionism. And if it isn't perfect, it doesn't ever see the light of day. And
You're a Virgo.
yeah, unfortunately, no, it's true. We're the worst. You can just Google Virgo men on TikTok, and you will never date one. You know, it's fine, and I get it. And but like yeah, perfectionism and getting over that and getting over that hurdle. And it's like we are recording a podcast. We've spent time and energy to be here, and it's not perfect, and that's fine, right? And it's not going to prevent us from not continuing and not publishing it. And I think for me as a creator, and coming from this world where everything is perfect, I'm really leaning into the idea of imperfectly perfect.
Yeah.
Like, accepting shit the way it is.
I think honestly, not even trying to do like a hard segue, but truly, when I think about the newsletter and creating content, and I just all of it, I think what's most important for me and what allows me to get through moments. Shit, that was aggressive. What allows me to get through moments where things feel a little janky or all over the place, or like to your point, don't feel perfect. I think is owning that we understand or at least have ability or autonomy over the overarching story and the overarching brand, or what is high level, what top level, what is it that I'm accomplishing, and then I'm a little bit more okay with like things not always working the way that I want, because I know that there's a bigger picture. When I didn't always have a bigger picture and I was just kind of working on different things to keep myself busy or to try to pursue an opportunity, it would be very easy for something to not work and just completely throw me off because I had put so much into that one thing. But yeah, now I understand things a lot more high level, and even with like I said with the newsletter, that helps me at the end of the week when I'm processing like my wins and losses to realize like, oh, all of these work together. Like I had a great week, or I had a great month. Like I did accomplish XYZ, or I did attract this kind of opportunity. So, I think that I encourage more creatives to own that ability. Yeah.
And I love the idea of using the newsletter in a way to take stock of the things that you've done
Yeah.
throughout the week, throughout the month. I find myself, I write down what I've done throughout the day. Because if I don't do it, I forget, and I don't realize all the stuff I've done. Because I think for me, I struggle with that. I feel like, oh, I haven't done anything, or whatever. But that's not true. I just have lost sight of it.
Yeah. I mean, being creative is chaotic. Like even as a career, it's still a chaotic ass fucking career. It's controlled chaos for all those of us that build like these creative businesses. So you have to find the ways to create order for yourself. And yeah, for me, newsletter is that. And also I think you talk about intention, like at some level I do still want to build genuine connections. So I think the newsletters sometimes are an opportunity for me not to be so polished and be a little bit raw. Like I started writing one for next week, and I was feeling not overwhelmed, but the feeling of like, did I do enough this week? Or no, actually the opposite. I felt like I did too much. And I was like, fuck, I did a lot this week. What was the point? And as I started to write it out, I was like, oh, that was the point. I'm trying to showcase this, and I'm working on this larger play, and I'm trying to figure this out. That's why I did a lot this week. Am I going to do a lot next week? Probably not. I'm going to probably do less, because I also realized in writing the newsletter that I didn't enjoy doing a lot this week. So that kind of check in, and then sharing that with people, because you have these conversations enough with other creatives and you realize we're all going through the same shit.
Yep.
So for you to say like, some days I don't know if I'm doing enough and I have to write it down, for somebody that might be the first time they've ever heard that, and they're like, "Oh fuck, I should do that
For
because I
sure.
feel like that every day." And it's like those are tools that
Yeah.
everybody doesn't have access to. They don't even know that you should be like. Some people need to write down what they're doing as the day goes on.
Yeah.
So
And I figured that out. I didn't even know, but I caught myself doing this thing where I feel like people will write down a list of things they need to get done on the day.
we have to commit to some kind of process. You know, it's funny. I had learned at one point when I really let myself get into the process of like figuring out what my workflow was, that I needed to create my to-do list as I cleaned.
Mm.
Like there was a point in my life where like I would get up on Monday mornings and I've always had a huge whiteboard wherever I live. I'll get up and start cleaning, and as I'm cleaning, my gears are turning, and I'll go and like write shit down. Like, oh, I got to do my taxes. I got to do this. I got to follow up with so and so. And I'd fill up the board, and it would be chaotic as fuck. And then as the day goes on, I would check stuff off, and I would try to do like high level for the week. And then at the end of the day, I would document what was most important, erase all of it, and then like put a nice version up. And then that would get me through the week.
I like that.
But that's so fucking chaotic. But I had to learn that that was like my process,
That's a good hack though. Everyone buy a whiteboard.
right?
Keep it.
And then clean.
And then no, yeah, because I think my version of that are stickies. Like I have I have like a 45-inch monitor, and I have like all these stickies of like like get back to John, or like edit this or do that, and then by the end of the day I look at my stack, and then like when it's done I take it off and I stack it. But yeah, it's like building a system to be able to like catalog the progress that you've done
Yeah.
to keep you going. And everyone, it's different. It's
Yeah.
different for everyone, right?
I love the sticky notes. My partner, when I met him, he'd do sticky notes for like things he had to do, but he also would write himself like little inspirational things or like
Mm.
things he heard throughout the day. And I remember when we were moving out of LA and I was helping him move out of his place, he had all these like really great quotes like in the kitchen that he just like kept. And they were all just like really cool, like things he would just tell himself throughout the days. And he'd put the date down and he had them like over the years. And I was like, oh, that's a cool way to take something that's functional, but also make it creative for yourself. Like
Mhm.
there's to-do lists, there's things, but there's also like, hey, be kind to yourself today. Hey, we had a great day today, September 30th. And I was like, oh, that's dope. Like he found a way in the madness to like make it artistic for himself.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
And it also reminds me of this. I was on a shoot a few years ago, and it was like a week long shoot in Austin, for like a telecom company, and I was working with this amazing photographer named Matthew, and he was just so fun to work with. We had a great time with the production. It was just a great shoot. And at the end of the shoot, I'll never forget, he gave me a sticky note, and he wrote, he wrote, it was something like, you know, keep rocking it or whatever. And it was just such a small sign, such a small little thing, but I kept it, and I have it, and it's on my desk. And it was just like a moment where someone just acknowledged, my presence and my contributions to the thing, and on a sticky note. And this is the simplest thing, but also just very symbolic for me.
That's beautiful. Yeah, they could be. I do those. Me and my partner do them, and I do them to my mom now because we co-parent my dog. So like sometimes she'll come pick him up, and I'll like leave a sticky note on like I'll leave him in the bathroom. I'll leave a sticky note like "Hi, mom," and then she'll sign it back like "Love you."
That's cute. That's cute. I feel like yeah, sticky notes are should have a comeback.
Right?
Yeah. So I guess before we had our mishaps, we were talking about uh the album that you released
Yes.
in November.
Mhm.
If you just want to like give us a little like behind the scenes on that, what the inspiration was, the process,
Yeah.
and maybe like yeah, like how did the collaborations that came about on Bouncy and Pretty, how did those come about?
Yeah. So being being a queer artist, being a queer creative in urban music, and I guess in all genres, but my experience was in urban music. Spent most of that time by myself or just kind of in rooms where I was kind of the only one that knew my lived experience or my story or whatever. So as I was transitioning out of songwriting, I was very intentionally looking to just create with more queer people, more queer creatives. So I met Tariq Carroll, who's an incredible photographer, creative director, because I wanted to shoot with him. He does this campaign called the Everyman Project where he shoots
Mm.
plus size men. So I was like, I'm gonna shoot with him, find out he's a fucking producer and artist and he's incredible. And we ended up just working on music together. And we branded this project called Dream Big that we released in 2022, which was basically just an album for Black queer people, specifically from like that grew up in New York. He's from Brooklyn, from the Bronx. It was very 90s hip hop, very TRL, very just Missy, Busta Rhymes. The goal was for Sync. Like that was my high level plan, was like I saw what Sync had done for Lizzo and LaKaylee 47, and then of course like the Renaissance album, and just seeing how influential Black queer culture was on pop culture at large, and especially in Sync. And I was like, I want to do that. I'm a part of that. I want to create that for myself. So we created this album called Dream Big, and we were pitching for syncs, and ended up getting contacted by a company called Alibi Music that works in sync. And they were like, hey, we think your album's phenomenal. Do you happen to have any like B-sides or anything that you'd want to partner with us on to release? And we were like, we might have one or two. We ended up doing a whole album with them, which is basically like a sequel album to Dream Big, called Bouncy and Pretty, with the same intention of like, these songs first and foremost are Black and gay as fuck, and like, but also really work well for television and sync, like shows like Broad City, Insecure, Atlanta, Miss Marvel. Like those are the kind of things we were watching. So yeah, and the opportunity came about when we go back to me talking about, you know, being an artist and an A&R at the same time. The moment I got the role at Meta, I also got offered this project, and I was like, that must be the universe telling me like, hey, don't stop being an artist, like do both. And it taught me so much, being able to work on both sides of it, being an A&R and working with artists that are creating music for Meta, and essentially for not sync, but you know, to be used in products. And then I'm also making a project that's meant for television. So that was what Bouncing Pretty with Tariq. And yeah, that came out in November. So still waiting on syncs, obviously, but still early. And I'm manifesting a Marvel movie. I would love to be in a Marvel film, and maybe a Disney or something, or I don't know, sky's the limit. But yeah, that's what Bouncy and Pretty is.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, shit. So we know you can manifest and
Yeah.
make things happen and make decisions that get you in rooms speaking to people. And so I'm sure it's gonna happen. And when you do, you'll come back here and we'll talk about it. But I love that, in that you're creating, you're being intentional, but there's also like a bigger purpose that will not only benefit you, it'll benefit your collaborators and your partners that you've been working with. And I think that's, yeah, like creating for yourself, but also there's this great satisfaction that you get when you're of service, right? When you can do something for someone or other people while growing and doing something for yourself as well.
I think that's so important. And I think I look at some of my favorite moments in pop culture is when people hyper focus on what they're interested in, who they are, where they're from. And I ran from that for a long time, not out of shame or for any other reason than I didn't think it was marketable. Like I just wasn't seeing artists like myself. So, you know, my instinct wasn't to go and break the mold. I didn't even have that concept. My instinct was to go and be of service. Like, you know, my idols growing up were Usher and like Justin Timberlake, and I didn't look like them. I didn't sing like them. So I was like, well, maybe I can write for them.
Mm.
And then over the years, seeing like a Lizzo, who's a plus size pop star, you know, or even watching Drag Race, seeing like all these queer entertainers that are literally like living, creating at the highest level of like making a costume, coming up with makeup. Like I was like, shit, I don't even want to do half of that. Like I just want to write a damn. But yeah, I'd be so inspired of like, fuck, like I can do so much more, and I can exist at such a higher level. And I think it's necessary because I don't think we'll ever tell every single story ever. You know, every single demographic is not gonna, if we took a day to do every single demographic, it would take forever still. So it's like all these stories are needed. All these demographics need anthems. All, you know, there's so many marginalized communities and voices that need to see and hear themselves. So when I started doing that and I started attracting more people like me, that felt really special and gratifying, because it's like I would have loved to have heard a Bouncy and Pretty when I was 10 watching TRL. Like, why the hell not? Like, I would love to hear a queer love song as a kid when I was like, is this right? Like, what am I doing? It's like, oh yeah, here's this song. Or like, you know, I didn't have Lil Nas X or
Right.
Frank Ocean or Troy Sivan. Like, so yeah, so I think being that for the next generation has been really cool in any capacity. Like I said, even just getting a song in a film that a kid might hear and be like, oh, he used male pronouns. That's cool. Like I like a boy. Like, you know. So I think I'm shifting away from that a little bit to get more into what we were talking about earlier, as far as like creating avenues and career opportunities for creatives is becoming more of what I'm passionate about. I think I was able to, through Bouncy and Pretty and through Dream Big, heal a lot of identity wounds and creative wounds for myself. So now my next level goal is like, now how do I take all of these people that I've empowered now and make sure that they have opportunities too now. So that's kind of I guess the pipeline for me of how these projects have been lining up.
I love that. I think if you boil it down, it's almost about like how do you not get in your way? How do you, as an artist, as a creative, seek alternative ways in,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word,
Or build your own shit.
or build your own shit? It's kind of like, there's a front door, there's a back door, but there's also a third door, right?
There's a sledgehammer.
And there's a sledgehammer, right? So like, there's like one thing that maybe you want, creatives listening to this to sort of take away and find those, roles that they didn't think existed, and be the things that they didn't even know they could be. There's like one thing, what I guess for you, what would it be?
I think that output is the most important thing for creatives. Don't hoard your art. Don't hide it. Like, put it into the world, whatever it is. That's how you attract opportunities. That's how you attract community. And yeah, be as creative in your pursuit of whatever it is you want to do as you are in your art. I think that's the biggest thing in the world. Like, I think if you are a creative person, if you can make a painting, you can sew a garment, you can write a song, you can come up with a cool ass cover letter, or you can fucking come up with a business, or you can figure it out. That creativity, you have access to it in every facet of your life, not just when you're at your medium, not just when you're at the easel or when you're at the mic. You have that access everywhere.
Love that. Yeah, you're being a creative, and a creative act isn't just limited to a certain space or mindset. It's really about being a creative throughout
Yeah.
your entire life.
Hell yeah. Look, this is being creative. And when we leave here, if you're going home to cook, that's being creative. You're going out tonight, you got to put on an outfit, that's being creative. You can do your hair later, that's being creative. Like, it's all part of your art form. It's just how do you choose to own it, and how do you choose to empower yourself to get what you want?
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. And this has been a great podcast, John. Holy shit, we got through it. Where can our listeners find you, listen to you, keep up with you, and be inspired by your work?
I'm at YawnyBlew everywhere. YawnyBlew. Or if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, Johnny Gonzalez. Since LinkedIn appears to be the place to be.
It works.
Right? It works. So yeah, YawnyBlew everywhere. I picked that name specifically because nobody else had it. So I'm the only one that shows up. So yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. Branding.
Awesome. Branding. It's real. Everyone use it.
Yeah.
Use it to your advantage. All right. Well, this is another episode of Cult of Sound Podcast. John, thank you for being here. Thanks everyone for listening to us. And yeah, we're out. Peace.
Peace.
Bye.
All right, and that's a wrap on the first episode of the Cult of Sound podcast. It's feeling a bit surreal. Can't believe we made it through. A huge thank you to YawnyBlew for being our inaugural guest, for sharing his truth, his humor, and such an unvarnished perspective. You might have noticed a few technical hiccups here and there on this episode. Shit happens, but you know what? It's like what John said, sometimes you just have to pick it up and keep going. That's a sentiment we really believe in. We don't think perfection is always the goal. Sometimes the most powerful things are the ones that feel real, that carry the mark of the people who pour their hearts into them. That's the kind of work that drives us. Big love to the incredible Cult of Sound crew, Frank Knife for our theme music, Annie Perry, our production lead, Rose Reed, our editorial lead, Ariel Long, our production assistant and social media whiz, Jack Toledo, our staff writer for the Cult of Sound blog, and of course our amazing post-production partners at Artifact, Hannah Bradley, editor and producer, Phil Bradley, our post-production supervisor. The Cult of Sound podcast is filmed in Dumbo, Brooklyn. We dedicate this episode of the Cult of Sound podcast to our legendary cat, Lizard, who's now our cat spirit guide on the other side. This one's for you, Lizzie. All right, and as a special treat to end this episode, we'll send you off with YawnyBlew's latest track, The Boy on Kosciuszko. Enjoy! I'm Anthony, this is the Cult of Sound podcast, and as always, mind the music.
I fell out of love again, and it's easier today than it was back then. I fell out of love again, and it's easier today than it was back then. Yeah. I fell out of love again, and it's easier today than it was back then. Yeah.
Feeling like the boy on Kasiasko, waiting for a train that never comes. This was supposed to be where I got off, but something in me's always on the run. Skipped in all good intentions. I still had to learn some lessons. All in love feel like lessons until we're just not meshing. And you know it's hard to believe it. Last train is leaving. All of the feelings, all lost in meaning, and it's odds and evens. All of the seasons, all started bleeding. Bygones until I'm just a boy on Kasiasko, the lonely boy on Kasiasko, who mourns the boy on Kasiasko, the lonely boy.
Fell out of love again, but it's easier today than it was back then. We fell out of love again.